And you know I don't normally gush at guests. It's just somebody who even mainstream media has to admit has about an 85% accuracy rate in year-out forecasting. I mean, they can't get anything right here in Austin past 2 or 3, 4 days. So they can track a weather system and pretty much get down what it's going to do, but they can't track the larger areas. And so because they want to push man-made global warming, they have this quackery that the moon and the sun, and they said that last year at Copenhagen, an official UN declaration that the sun does not affect climate. The sun is the driver. Is it not astrophysicist, meteorologist Piers Corbyn?
That's right. The sun drives it, and the main climate driver is through magnetic effects involving charged particles modulated by lunar influences. And the main cycles of weather observed on Earth are, in fact, solar-lunar driven. The 60-year cycle in the Pacific temperatures and American temperatures is a solar-lunar effect, and that modulates, if you like, the main magnetic effect, which is a 22-year cycle of world temperatures.
So what is the current cycle point we're in right now, and what do you see coming up in the next 12 months?
Right. What we've got now is we're leaving the solar minimum. We've left solar cycle 23, and we're in the start of solar cycle 24, and it's been hiccuping in its starting, and it's a lot of solar activity has tended to be low, and at the same time we're in a very fortuitous, if you like, lunar phase in the eclipse cycle of the moon, where we've just had some eclipses, and these appear to be accentuating the blocking tendencies of the jet stream, which we predict. And these blocking tendencies are very important for extreme events, like they're leading to these extreme cold situations in Britain and Europe, and your major blizzards and cold blasts in America. They also lead to very warm bits in different parts at times. But the key thing is right now the extreme cold experienced. And these extreme blockings are going to continue through January and February and right through the year. So we'll see a lot of extreme type of things, a lot more cold spells than the global warmers would like us to have. And it will generally look like a kind of different weather situation where we'll go through this year compared with previous years. We've entered some sort of pretty fundamental shift, I would say, in weather patterns.
Again, here's my simpleton question. Obviously, the moon is involved in the same orbits and gyrations and is stable, but the sun, do we have any idea on its short cycles? Obviously not its long cycles. So it looks to me like that's a major variable in that the sun is fluctuating and we don't know. So we have to always understand that's the big wild card, because though even the ancients understood the relationship with the moon and the sea and the overall weather, isn't the sun the big wild card?
Well, yes and no. There's a lot of things on the sun which are happening, which we can't see, but we nevertheless know they happen and change the way in which the solar wind gets to us and the magnetic linkages, and we can predict some of those very well. Like we know there's certain going to be shock waves, if you like, in the solar wind, some of which will help blocking and give us, for example, a cold blast in Britain or America if the blocking is in a certain place, and others lead to the jet stream being more mobile and it generally wetter and milder in the northern hemisphere, and we can distinguish between these two types of effect. Generally speaking. In terms of activity on the sun, I mean, an important thing is it spins around on its axis, so something that happened 27 days ago may come back in 27 days, every 27 days, because it spins relative to the Earth in 27 days. But at the same time, it changes on its surface, so you can't can't rely on that. But solar flares come in bursts of typically every 155 days on average, which is quite an important thing. There's many cycles and subcycles on the sun.
So we do know a lot about it. Okay, stay there. I want to come back and talk more about the sun. I want to talk about jet streams and a lot more with Piers Corbyn of weatheraction.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Our final segment with our guest. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Guest said he can clearly say, "I told you so." Back in November, the UK's government weather forecasting office claimed that this winter would be mild. That's the same office pushing a global warming agenda. But here's the forecast for this winter, as predicted in November by astrophysicist and meteorologist Piers Corbyn. Take a listen.
The winter, December to February, inclusive in Britain and Europe, will be exceptionally cold and snowy, like hell frozen over at times.
He was right. It feels like that outside right now. You're looking at video of an extremely snowy Britain from this week. So much for global warming. He says prepare for the ice age. Piers Corbyn joins us now.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to the Alex Jones Show.
And the resistance to the neo-collectivist eugenicist is gaining steam. Republicans kill global warming committee. Republicans have disabled the one committee devoted solely to climate change and energy issues. And we have other articles at prisonplanet.com with these bizarre people openly calling for euthanizing above 65s in The Guardian. You cannot make this type of bizarreness up. Calling for prison cities, rationing. I want to get back into the science with Piers Corbyn and his forecast. And he was talking about the jet stream stalling over in Australia. But I'd seen alternative media claim that the blizzard was caused by a stalling of the main jet streams. And he said absolutely. And I looked it up during the break. Turns out he did predict that as well. So, wow, that's pretty wild. We'll get into all of that and his forecast going into this year. Which the preliminaries are out on. He'll have more in the next few months with a full year forecast. But Piers Corbyn, what do you make of the eco-greenies really going from claiming they're trying to save us from global warming to now just flailing around calling for eco-fascism and engaging in such bizarre rhetoric?
Well, it is very worrying, and, you know, it's not anything I would have imagined. They are so bad. For example, just Fox News and ABC have carried me, and I've been in, various alternative and some newspapers in Britain. But the BBC have absolutely totally ignored what I've got to say. And, after these blizzards and so on, in Britain and in America, all they can do is have apologists for global warming turning up on the TV saying things like, cold is warm, and we don't know what is going to happen next. Well,
that's an exact quote.
They could ask us.
Well, I mean, that's an exact quote, though. They're actually saying the new warm is cold. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They've got some bizarre sort of idea that, well, there was some warm somewhere which caused a bit of something to happen in the Arctic, and that caused this cold blast. Well, excuse me, we predicted these events anyway using solar lunar activity. I mean, all their predictions have failed. These are the same people who told us that Europe would be without snow but by the end of this decade, and instead we got more snow than we've ever had, and the coldest December for over 100 years.
Incredible. I mean, I understand there's microclimates everywhere, but I mean, is it the coldest in 1,000, 300? I mean, what's your data show?
We can't say because we haven't got the data, but certainly we're expecting a continuing decline in world temperatures, so that we will be seeing on a more regular basis the coldest winters for some 200 or 300 years will start to become a lot more common.
Jet streams, for those that don't know, describe them, please, sir. And what's happening with the jet streams? It turned you did predict there'd be a slowing or a stalling, and I asked you if press reports here that it may have stalled were accurate. You said they are.
Yes. What you have at the jet stream is the general track of the low-pressure systems around the polar regions. So they go one way in the northern hemisphere and the other way in the southern hemisphere. And generally, when it's stalled in one, it will be stalled in the other half as well of the world. What happened during that New York blizzard, or just before it, was, for example, that we had a forecast we'd put out in detail that there would be east and northeast USA, including New York, would be hit by an almighty blizzard, and the country or that part would grind to a halt. Now, we said that in detail again 2 weeks ahead, and Standard Meteorology said, and we got emails from people saying, oh no, we can't see any of this coming, Piers, no, it ain't going to happen. And then they saw something and said, no, it's going to go out to sea, it won't hit New York, anything like much at all. And then 24 hours ahead, they started admitting that it was going to happen. And when it did happen, it was even more intense than they had said 24 hours ahead, and much more in line with what we had said in detail weeks ahead. So we are very pleased with that, although I have to admit I feel sorry for all those people who were stuck in the ice, who were ill-prepared because Standard Meteorology didn't help them.
Well, I go back to what I raised earlier. How, if it's admitted, the ancients knew this, that the moon controls the tides. If the moon is generating giant seas globally, sucking the water out, many feet lower, bringing it in many feet higher, to say then that it doesn't affect weather when 78% of the surface of the earth is covered by salt or fresh water, it's just completely ridiculous. How can they say? It's beyond ridiculous. They know they're lying.
They do. They know they're lying, but of course there's big interest attached to this. They're self-serving pseudo-scientists, and the politicians in tow, or the scientists are in tow of the politicians, whatever. They want carbon trading to make fast bucks. They want to control the development of energy trading around the world. They want to control agriculture a lot more, and they want the population to be stupefied and brainwashed and to actually desire to pay taxes to save the planet. Now, there's never been a movement in the history of the world before where people have been clamouring to pay taxes for any reason. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity for all tax collectors and governments, and they're not going to give it up lightly, which is why they will, use the state media to suppress opinions of people like me and put brainwashing sidekicks on instead.
Piers Corbyn, going back to the BBC, it took them over a month to report on ClimateGate after it was already a huge story, and now they still barely report on it and say it was an honest mistake when the emails clearly show premeditated lying by the UN-picked scientist. But it expands from there. Since then, like a line of 100 dominoes, every major fraud they've pushed has turned out to be a manifest, premeditated charade. Where do you see their hubris going? Are they running out of gas?
Well, they are running out of gas, but they do keep on filling up the tank. You see, the global warming scam is worth billions. We point out in our first news sheet of the year, which anyone can get on our website, Weather Action News number 1 for 2011, we point out that they've just put up value-added tax, but they don't need to put up value-added tax at all if they were to scrap the pseudoscience of man-made global warming, because that could save $18 billion a year. Putting up VAT is going to get them $13 billion. So to do something intelligent in line with real science would actually